Welcome. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. We are ready to begin, so I'm going to hand it over to the chair of the Informed Speakers Program, Anna Svirsko, and she'll just give a few introductory comments before we start.
Hi, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar on transitioning from student to professional. We have a bunch of great speakers or panelists with us today to answer your questions about that upcoming transition you may have from being a student to joining the workforce. So first, I want to give you a little bit of background on the Informed Speakers Program. Tracy, can we go to the next? So the Informed Speakers Program is run from Informs. We have a budget. So if you are looking for an event for your next meeting, you would like a speaker to come, you can go to the Informed Speakers Program webpage and search for the available speakers. You're welcome to request a speaker there, or if you're interested in potentially contributing and being a speaker for student programs, you can also enroll to become a speaker. Your request will come to us directly and we'll look at the request, and we fund most of the requests we get. So each student chapter can have about one request per semester. And so during this webinar, we ask that you do keep yourselves muted. You can comment in the chat. You can post Q&As. Click on the thumbs up if you want to upvote a question so we know that it's a popular question that people would like answered. You can post questions anytime during the hour, and the recording of this will be shared with you all later. And if you aren't an Informs member, you should definitely consider getting an Informs membership. The membership is $39 for the entire year for student members and $160 for regular members. As a member, you can get more content. You can get access to members-only platforms to join different parts of the organization that specialize in maybe a field you're really interested in. There's also opportunities to network with others around you and discounts on anything Inform sells, including registration for conferences. And so before we begin today's panel, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our two panelists. So I have with us Professor Banafsheh Behzad and Shannon Shang. So go ahead and you guys can take it away.
Okay, Tracy, do you want me to start?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for being here. We are very excited for this webinar. As you know, the topic is transitioning from student to professional, and I'm gonna talk about the academic side of this transition. And Shannon, after me, she will talk about the practitioner side of the transition. As Anna mentioned, I'm Banafsheh Behzad. I'm an associate professor in the Information Systems Department in the College of Business in California State University, Long Beach. I have been with Informs for a couple of years in different committees. I'm currently the president of WORMS, Women in ORMS, and I'm also the chair of the membership committee at Informs. So I want to start with this question of academia or industry, and the short answer is it depends. It depends on many things. It depends on your interests. It depends on who you are and what expectations you have from your job. It depends on the fact that if you enjoy research, if you like this process of coming up with problems, defining new research questions, and finding ways to solve the problems. And in general, if you enjoy teaching, if you like this process of explaining things and working with the students, and if you're patient enough in this process. And in terms of the expectations from the job, if you more think of the business side and practitioner side of your job, or if you more think of the educational side of your job. I personally love my job. I enjoy the fact that I can choose what to work on, what problems to work on, and who to work with. If I have a passion for a problem, I can easily take that question as my research work and come up with tools to solve the problem and work on it. I also like the schedule flexibility of the job. If one day I have to stay home because my kid is sick, I don't have to call anybody, tell them that I'm not going to come to work. Just a note here that this is different if you have a teaching day, because with classes, you cannot easily miss the class. In my 8 years of teaching, I think I only missed the class once because of a very serious emergency. But other than that, it's very flexible. I want to talk a little bit about the academic job search. You might be in this process, or you might start in the future. My suggestion is to start early enough, start in early summer or even in the spring. Spend a lot of time on your application materials, your teaching statement, your research statement. Get feedback from others, ask your advisor or your peers in your PhD group to read it and give you feedback. Prepare a spreadsheet with all the job openings. Informs Career Center is a great resource here. You can sign up to receive emails with all the job openings. And at the end, my suggestion is send as many applications as you can. Each application is going to take maybe about an hour once you have everything ready to just submit the application. But if you want to restrict yourself to one area or to certain schools, because this entire process is very, very competitive, then at the end, you might not have many choices. But when you send many applications, you're just opening new doors to yourself. At the end, practice your interview, practice a lot, practice talking about your research as an elevator speech, talking about your research in the simplest way possible, and also more technical ways. There are interview questions which you should be able to find them online. Have an answer for each question and practice your interview a lot. I want to talk about life as a junior faculty from the research side, teaching side, and the service side. Looking at the research side, my first suggestion is continue with what you have been doing before as a PhD student, because it's not easy to immediately come up with new research topics and change research path. You're expert in what you have been doing before, so continue with the future directions of your research. You need to find research collaborators eventually, and it's not easy, but once you find a collaborator, a good collaborator, it's going to be great. So the way to find collaborators is to just network. Conferences are the best way to network. So you're going to meet people, you're going to go to different talks, talk to them after that, reach out to them via email. At the beginning, they might not know you as a student or as a junior faculty, but then after a while, when you keep going to the conferences, you're going to be known in the field. Research talks, giving research talks in different universities is also a very useful tool to be known. Don't think that they're going to invite you at the beginning to give research talks everywhere. You can also start, you can initiate this. You meet people in conferences, you can tell them that, do you need a speaker? I can come and give a talk at your school. Or you can also email them. And one way is to start from schools which are in your area so that they don't have to pay a lot for your travel, and just like ask them that you want to give a talk at the school. Students, similar to research collaborators, it's not easy to find good students, but you also have to be patient with the students. You have to train the students at the beginning, and it's a process that they learn, and they should take this process. Read a lot, read articles in your area of work, also read news, because when you read it, it can give you ideas about future research. And then finally about grants. Grants are more required for engineering schools and not business schools. But the thing with grants is that they're very, very hard to get. So expect rejections, lots of rejections. In general, rejection is a big part of this job, rejection with papers, with grants. But then each time that you write a grant proposal, you're going to get feedback so you can improve your proposal and eventually secure funding. I want to talk about the teaching part of it. So at the beginning with new courses, you are going to spend a lot of time. So lots of preparation for new courses. So obviously you are going to have less time for research. One advice that I got from a mentor a couple of years ago was that never leave your research out there without touching it for a while. So always try to, even every day, do something about your research. It could be even writing one sentence in your paper, or it could be just like working a little bit on your proof or your analysis. But obviously, when you have courses to teach, you naturally have less time for research. About the students, know the level of your students, and then modify your expectations based on that. You might come from an R1 school and teach in a different university that the culture is different, so the level of the students might be very different. Teaching workshops are useful. Usually universities offer teaching workshops, so it's useful to attend. Stay up to date with teaching. It doesn't mean that you have to change your teaching materials every semester, but maybe you can introduce new case studies or new projects with new data sets. And just know that there's no end to teaching, how much time you can spend on teaching, because you can just make your materials as better as possible, as best as possible. But then there's a trade-off with the time that you are spending on your research. Good teaching is going to give you good reputation. Yes, your students should be happy. You have to do a good job with teaching. Bad teaching is going to ruin your reputation. But eventually research is the most important part of getting tenure in most of the schools. And at the end, enjoy it. It's a very rewarding process. It's very satisfying to get comments from students that they are enjoying the class, they're learning a lot, they're using the materials in their career. The service side, which is the last part, is that there are usually two types of service that we offer. Internal service at the university, which you are required to do it. It would be at the department level, college level, and the university level. You're learning at the beginning, so you should not be involved in many committees at the beginning, because you also have to spend a lot of time on the research and teaching. But then after a while, you will have more committees that you will be involved in. The external service is just voluntary. You're volunteering your time. It could be at the level of Informs or other communities. Passion is the key here, because you're just spending time. And so you need to kind of have a passion for what you're doing. For example, I like worms. I like women in ORMS and issues related to them. Or like, let's say, diversity, equity, inclusion. So whatever you like and whatever you have passion in it, this is something that you can pursue. It helps with visibility. It might even help with like finding research collaborators, because you're going to know more people, talk to more people. You can start always with being a session organizer. This is easy. This is not, it doesn't take a lot of time, but then volunteering in committees, it takes more time. So don't jump into it at the very beginning. Again, be careful with the time that you spend on your research and on your teaching, but then after a while, you will have more time to volunteer. Couple tips, and these are mostly based on the questions that we got from you. People skills is very important in this job. It's important in any job, but make sure to respect other faculty, students, and staff. Don't think that because you're a faculty, you're from a different class. That's not true. Students are very important. We're serving the students. Staff are always great resources. So try to be nice to everybody and respect everybody. Learn as much as you can when you're still at the school, because you might think that once you graduate, you're going to attend this workshop, you're going to take this online course, you're going to learn this new tool and technique. But surprisingly, you're going to have less free time. So when you're at school, it's just the best time to learn more things. Time management is super important. Have short-term, mid-term, long-term schedules and calendars. I personally don't work with deadlines. I work based on the importance of the tasks. So I know that I have to write the syllabus for my course. I know that I have to come up with new questions for the tests and quizzes. So I do these things in advance. And then obviously new things are going to happen, which you have to work on them based on deadlines. So then you will have time to do those. One tip is that the financial decisions that you make in your 20s and 30s might have a huge impact on your future at the time of retirement. So usually universities offer some workshops on this. So try to attend some of those so that you know what kind of investments you should pursue, or what are the kind of decisions that is wise for you to make. And finally, find some healthy life habits and hobbies. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. When you're a student, you just have like a couple years to get this degree and you will be done with it. But when you work, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. So try to find some time, put this in your schedule. If you're going to work out, like put it in your schedule. If you're going to do this thing that you like to do, put it in your schedule so that you have time for it. So I'm going to stop here and Shannon will take on, and then at the end, we're going to take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a very, very good presentation. Let me share my screen really quick. Could everyone see my screen? Okay, sounds good. All right. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to talk about transition from student to professional. A little bit about myself. My name is Shannon. I am a data analyst at the University of Tulsa. And before that, I was a market analyst at Innovation Controls, and that was my first full-time job. I graduated in 2018, so I consider myself as still a very early age career professional. So I would like to share some stories that I experienced and found it not very commonly discussed. Hopefully my stories can help you better transit from student to a real world job. And of course, you may have different stories or different experience from mine, either similar or very different. I encourage you to share yours in the chat area too. You can say something like, oh, I had the same similar experience, or I have very different experience. I would like to know about all of these stories. Okay, so what I will cover in my presentation, and people see this and people will be like, you can find these topics easily everywhere online, right? And yet many people still have issues on these topics. So I will cover people skills, relentless learning, jump out of your zone and stay ambitious. Okay, so first of all, people skills. It is a very broad concept. It could refer to the ability to relate to others, communication skills, patience, or ability to trust, etc. Like you name it. But here I want to emphasize on how you can talk in normal language instead of professional, or in my case, I call it data language. I have been at school for a long time, and most of the time I talk with people in the same area who understand the data language. I remember the first project I did for my first full-time job at Innovation Controls. I was so excited. My audiences were at that time, it were the sales team and a bunch of executives. I was so happy to share my result. I showed them the result. And then after my presentation, everyone clapped and everyone said, you did a great job, except for we don't really understand what you're talking about. And I think back of what I was talking about and realize, oh, I was talking about, I used logistic regression, and I was talking about level of significance, and I was talking about my error rate report, all of those things, and realize that it's not their area. They talk in different languages, right? And so I think it is very important to translate to the understandable language to different audiences. And you should start practicing from now. I mean, I don't know if you're a student or if you're early stage career, you should practice this. You should think of a way to make people understand what you're talking about. And not only when you talk, when you present, right? You always should deliver your thoughts, results, plans, etc. in the appropriate form. And now some people may say, well, I work in the IT department, or I work in the data department. I only need to report to people in the department. I don't need to talk with other people at all. Here, that leads to my next advice. Jump out of your zone. Here I didn't use the word comfort because it's mainly about what you are doing, right? One of my students, I don't think I covered that in my introduction. I was also a adjunct professor at the University of Tulsa right after I graduated. So one of my students talked to me after he got his job. He said he has the best skill set in his team and still couldn't get a good opportunity to show his skills while everyone has already been recognized by the company. And I asked him, I said, can you tell me your typical day at work? And he told me everything. Sounds like he's really good at prioritizing tasks and finish tasks on time, and yet and at a very high quality. And I asked him, I said, do you ever talk to people from other functions in your company? And he said, not much. And I said, you should start doing that. And a few weeks later, he came back to me saying that he's doing a multifunctional project and everyone likes his ideas. I learned this from my last job at Innovation Controls. One of my coworkers there, he saw me sitting in front of my computer screen every day. And he said, you should talk to people. You should talk to more people from other departments. You should understand your role better. And really, you don't need to spend a long time talking, maybe like 10, 15 minutes during your break in the coffee room, or maybe in your lunchtime, etc. This could help you to be more creative, to be more proactive, and most importantly, that you can understand your role better. And understanding your role better, that people may say, I know what my job is about, right? But do you know how you will benefit the organization that you work for that you work for them? And I don't know about you, but I am the type of, I need to know that what I'm doing is meaningful. And that is like my main motivation source. So talking to people, understand my role better definitely helps to build my confidence as well. And if you don't know how to start the conversation, start with, hey, how's everything going? What are you working on recently? And is there anything I can help with? Like all of those can give you some ideas. At Innovation Controls, I did a project for them that was like all the ideas were all from talking to people from operation, from supply chain, and from sales team. And listening them like sometimes complaining about their work actually gave me more ideas of how I can make it better. And that is this point. And then relentless learning. People say, I know I need to learn, but it's more about you have to be mentally ready to learn new things for the rest of your life, especially if you choose to do things related with data operation research. You definitely have to learn new things. We are in a rapidly changing era. Everything change. Software updates almost every week. Some softwares updates every day, right? I deal with Power BI a lot, and that's something, they have new features every month. So it is very important to be ready. I remember when I graduated, I completely like shut my brain. I was like, I'm not going to learn anything. And my first job, I had to learn a lot of things. And then I got my second job. My second job used Tableau instead of Power BI. So I have to learn all of the Tableau related things from the start. Many people may say, okay, so I learned so many things from school, and because everything changed so fast, I may not use them in my work, in my job. Then why am I still learn that, right? You have learned so many things from schools or courses, not only to prepare your skill set and knowledge base for your future work, but also to make it easier to learn new things. So I was quantitative finance major when I was at school, and I had an internship. Well, while I was at school, so most of the financial research, if you probably know about it, it is we mainly use SAS. And then I got my internship at a educare organization, and they use data, but I hadn't never heard of that before, that internship. And surprisingly, I learned that very fast. And then I can start my own projects in a very short time. And I realized, oh, I think because many like logics and everything's from the SAS coding language, and it makes it easier for me to learn data. So it is something that makes it easier to learn new things, and never think that you will never use it. You're still using it, just not directly use the same language base. Okay, and then the last one, but not least, stay ambitious. I remember that before I graduated, me and my friends and my classmates, we were talking about, we're so happy. We're like, we're going to use AI. We're going to do machine learning, all of the fancy words. And the first 3 months of my first job, I deal with data quality. Many work, it was very repetitive. I have to do the same thing again. And after 3 months, I still receive phone calls saying, hey, this doesn't look right. And I realized, well, after I started understanding how the data system works, and I started understanding, start making the data quality better, it definitely helps with the rest of the projects that I've been doing. So my suggestion here is to be patient, knowing that all of the work that you are doing is to make it easier for your future work. And also, like I said before, it's very important to talk to people in their language, and that can help you win the trust. Because not every companies are like Google or Amazon, they have a very high level of data culture. For me, I had to win trust in the jobs, because sometimes like think if you're in their shoes, if you don't understand the language, if you don't really understand how things work, so you probably wouldn't really trust them either, right? So I don't ever lost your dreams, still keep dreaming and still keep ambitious, and you will reach your dream some point. And that concludes my presentation. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Banafsheh, as well. It was really interesting to hear about both of your professional journeys and such great advice. So attendees, now we're going to go to the questions. A couple weeks ago, my colleague Jill Capello had reached out to you by email, asked people to submit questions, and many of you did. So we're going to go to that list of questions now. And then at the end, we're hoping to be able to also take some live questions. So please continue to use that Q&A box. You can submit your own question or upvote other people's if you see someone ask something that you are interested in as well. So starting off, we have several kind of general questions that I think maybe one or both of you could speak to. What aspect of working life did you find most surprising or most different from grad school?
So I can comment on that. As I mentioned, surprisingly, you're going to have less free time, and people around you are going to be different. You're not going to deal anymore with only students. As your peers, you're going to have faculty, staff, and students. And also in your social life, people are going to be different, because when you're a student, you mainly hang out with other students. But when you work, it's going to be different. People from different kinds of work, different people. But to me, because I always thought that I'm going to have more time when I graduate, but it was surprising for me that you will have less time.
Well, for me, the experience is kind of different, because I know that for if you go for academia, your time will be more flexible. But for me, the main feeling is I don't need to do homework anymore. But meanwhile, the time is not as flexible as a student at school. So, yeah.
Someone asks, is making a career decision, academia versus industry, definitive, or are the two worlds permeable?
So you can move from industry to academia and from academia to industry. It's not always very easy. If you want to move from academia to industry, you mainly have to prepare yourself for interviews, because pretty much most of the companies right now have technical interviews. So you just have to prepare yourself. Moving from industry to academia, you have to show that you have to show proficiency in research. So your research cannot be outdated related to your PhD job, especially if you graduated a while ago. So you have to show basically that you are active in research and you can perform scholarly work.
I think I agree with you. And yeah, I think it's very, if you want to say go to the other side, definitely you could. Sometimes it may be a little bit hard. And actually there are many members at Informs that I know did other way. And one of our board members, Dr. Patgon, went back to school for a tenure track after working for consulting, I think. So depending on the area, and even like for because I used to be a graduate assistant at the business school, and I know that many business school, they like professors with some industry experience. So yeah.
Very true. I know we have lots of members who have done both or are doing both even, or collaborate across the two worlds. After graduation, how should we network with others and find a good collaborator as a junior professional?
So I kind of covered that at the end of my presentation. Networking is the most important, really finding collaborators, and conferences are great. So when you go to a conference, don't just like go and attend talks and leave after the talk. Go and talk to people, and not just during the talks and after the talks, but like in the events, different events. So meet people, talk to people, and follow up through emails. For junior faculty, giving talks, again, as I said, and in other schools is important, and you can initiate it. Don't stay there, like wait for others to invite you. If you initiate it, then it's much more likely to get invited.
Okay. Someone asks, I'm an international student. Getting selected for the job or internships gets harder when you're on an F1 visa. Do you have suggestions to international students to make their applications stronger and more competitive?
You want to talk first, Banafsheh?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Okay. I totally understand the concern. I am an international student as well, and I had to pause working, waiting for some documents proceed for a long time. And I understand there are a lot of limit for international students, and for practice area, for like the industries, because the working for academia is definitely kind of different as international student. And my suggestion is to search for the employers that sponsored working visa before, and definitely apply for the jobs that fit you of these companies. And like Banafsheh talked, I think networking is a key to get a job, both for academia and for practice as well. And definitely don't be shy to talk to the hiring managers directly.
And one thing that I can add to this is that for academic jobs, universities, they don't have any restrictions on the number of applicants and like the number of international applicants that they can get. So this is good because they don't have, it's usually fairly easy that they apply for you for the process. Some universities might cover the cost, and some universities you might have to cover the cost yourself, but then the process is automatic. So with academic jobs, they don't really do much like care if you are an international student. It's just important like to be qualified for the job.
Okay, thank you. I know that's going to affect many of the students at Inform. So if that's your situation, you're not at all alone. Okay, someone writes, specifically, I've noticed many entry or mid-level OR postings require experience with SAS, SQL, and data visualization tools such as Power BI and Tableau, which are not necessarily used or taught in the courses we're taking as part of our degree programs. Are Coursera specializations a respected means of acquiring the experience with those tools? Or what other suggestions might you have for acquiring base knowledge with those skill sets?
Shannon, I think you can cover that.
Okay, so for data analytics area, it's mostly skill-based. So for employers to understand how well you can apply these skills or tools to work is from either certification, mostly the exam-based projects that you have done with certain tools, school courses, and other supplemental evidence. So I think certification projects are the most important in my own opinion, because that's the way that they know how well you are. And from some of the courses, it kind of depends on the level, or it depends on the school programs. Some recruiter may think, okay, you probably learned this very well, or they may think, because we know that some courses, they just kind of give you a software, you put data in there, and that's it. Like they don't give you some deeper insights of each methods. So for me, I think it is, if you have the possibility, if you have the chance to get certification or projects, definitely do these first. And then if you don't have a chance, I would say learning from different places is very important. Like for me, I learned Power BI and Tableau mostly myself. So, and there are a lot of free resources everywhere. But like I said, you have to prove to the recruiters that you could use these very well. So after you learn these, if you couldn't get a chance to prove that you could use this, or you didn't get a chance to do any projects with it, I say sometimes the Coursera and like the some type of online courses may help as well. Yeah.
Thank you. You both mentioned people skills in your presentation. Can you talk a little bit about what other soft skills are most important as a professional, and are those different in academia versus industry?
So for academia, I would say presentation skills and writing skills are key. It's very important. Writing is because you're going to write your research papers. So not necessarily everyone is good at writing, even if English is your first language. So you have to kind of like get training. You have to go to workshops, and again, universities usually offer these workshops. But you can also, like at the beginning, give your papers to other to read it for you and give you feedback, just in terms of like writing. You have to practice with writing. It takes a lot of practice to get better at it. Your first paper might not be your best one in terms of writing, but then after a while you will get better at it. Again, one advice that I got from a mentor, which I really liked it, is that clear writing means clear thinking. So if you have a clear understanding about like a topic, you will be able to write better on it. And presentation skills, obviously very important, because you teach, you're going to present a lot. And with that, again, it takes a lot of practice. So just practice your talk. When I started, I don't think that I ever practiced my teaching, like maybe for myself, but my research, whenever I wanted to present, I just practiced it so much in front of others. So that I get used to it. And now with Zoom, it's so easy. You can just record it and then watch yourself when you're giving a talk. So you know which areas you have to improve on.
For me, I think in industries, I think it's very important to, like I said, mentioned in the presentation, is very important to be able to speak in other people's language, just because unlike academia, you probably talk to people that's in the same area, but in industries, you may talk to people in different areas that has to try to understand your world as well. So I think that is very important, at least for me. And also definitely networking. Networking is very, very, very important, even though you already have a job. So, yeah.
Okay, the next question is kind of specific to academia. I'd like to know more about the leadership aspect in a university. So as a student, what activities better prepare you for a future role as faculty who must create a research group? And how should we familiarize ourselves with the new teaching methods using up-to-date technology?
So I would say as a student, the best thing that you can do is to just do the best in your research. Okay, so if you have a good research profile, it's going to help you with getting the job, and it's going to help you later on with continuing your research. So learn as much as you can. Again, new techniques, new courses, like elective courses offered by the other departments, which might be related to your area, and spend all of your energy in doing the best in your research. Because again, if you know new tools and new techniques, it is going to help you with teaching, but I wouldn't just necessarily say like practice like teaching when you're a student. So once you get the job, then you can spend your energy and like gather your thought about like the topics that you want to teach. You most likely will get some kind of advice from mentors in your university. You might be able to get some past teaching materials. So you can start with those as a benchmark, but it more comes from experience. There are teaching workshops that you can attend, but you mostly attend those as like maybe final year of your PhD or as a junior faculty. But as a student, I would spend all of my energy and resources on my research.
Next, we have an industry question. What is more important in industries, operations research or Six Sigma?
I will say both. Well, I'm not super in the operation research area. I deal with some operation projects, but for me, I think it's both. Companies are using both of them in their daily operations. So yeah.
Okay. Now, someone writes that they're having trouble getting professional internships. Normally, they don't ever seem to respond to the application. Do you have any advice for that?
Yes, definitely talk to them. Utilize your LinkedIn, your email, your text messages. LinkedIn is my favorite. I use LinkedIn a lot, and sometimes kind of like talk to people and say congratulations to people when they promoted or when they get a new job. It kind of like make you guys like have some relations over there, and ask about the process. Ask if there's anything else that they may need that you can, or ask them like if there's anything that you can provide them, give them some options, say, hey, here's my previous work, here's this and here's that, and is there anything I want to see? And even if you didn't get the offer, you can still talk to them, get some suggestions, like how to make your resume better, what else you can work on in the future, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we're going to shift over to the Q&A because we have a bunch of questions there. So I'll just take that one from the top. This one is for Banafsheh. Could you provide some advice to junior faculty who want to do research, but with a 4-in-4 teaching load?
Yeah, I understand you. I hear you. I also have a high teaching load at where I am. It is hard, but the thing is that it's not fair to you if they're giving you new course preps every semester. So if the 4-in-4 teaching loads are for new courses, this is just going to be too much work. And I don't know how you need to find time to do research. For example, at Long Beach, where I'm at, we only teach, we don't have new preps like over and over again. So you have been teaching the same courses. So after a while, then teaching is not going to take much time from you because you don't prep for it. Yes, obviously you have to go to the class, you have to answer emails, you have to hold office hours. So it will take time, but it's going to be much less than having new preps. So if your teaching load is so high, kind of you need to ask for like less new preps so that you can find time for research. For research, if you find a good collaborator, it helps a lot because you're going to be you will have weekly meetings. So you're going to be on a schedule and you need to find some time to do the research. If you want to just do it on your own, it's going to be very challenging because I know you will get busy with teaching. So it would be hard to find that time. So kind of like force yourself by try to working with someone. So that you have to report to at least someone like to your collaborator somehow.
Next question, do we have to publish in management journals to find a faculty position in a business department?
Not necessarily before you find the job. So many business schools, they don't expect you to have publications already. They expect you to have a good research and good research talk and a good job market paper. So it should be promising, and it's going to be obvious from your job market paper and from your presentation that if this research is promising and if there is a way for you to publish in good journals. It very depends on the type of the school that you're going. Some schools, they only expect you to publish in certain top journals. Some schools are more relaxed on that, but in general, having publications beforehand helps a lot, especially with business schools. Some of the engineering schools, they require you to have publications already. So the cultures are a little bit different, but not necessarily, it's not a requirement for business schools.
Okay. Could you share something about only teaching professor and teaching and research professorship? So how can we decide which one is the right option for us?
It depends on if you want to do research or not, because teaching professors is just, you don't have any research part in it. So it could be either like adjunct professor or a lecturer, or it could be a permanent position, but your title is a teaching professor. So you will only teach. It just depends that do you like to do research or not. But if you are a tenure track professor, even in teaching universities, they require you to do some level of research. And then the level of research would be different depending on the university. But personally, you have to make this decision that do I want to continue doing research or do I just want to teach?
Okay. And now a question which I suspect is the big question for a lot of students. Do you have any tips for deciding whether academia or industry is a better match for you?
Shannon, do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, for me, I remember before I graduated, many professors said, yeah, you should go towards academia, because I had a lot of like, not a lot, but some research before. And then, but I'll be honest, I think, so for me, I really don't like writing. Like, write papers is not something for me, but you still write things for the industries, but it's kind of different. Like you try to keep it precise, and then like a memo. And also for me, I'm more into a daily regular time schedule life. So that's kind of the main reason that I think about this. But sometimes I still think about, should I go back to the academia or things like that? And I think so it might be an option for me in the future, but right now for me, I think it's going that track. You have to have a lot of time and financial as well. So that's kind of like how I chose my way.
Yeah, and so I would add like the type of person you are. If you see mostly yourself as someone who can do research and teach, if these are things that you like and if you enjoy. Again, flexibility of the job is one thing. Security of the job is also another thing. Yes, before getting tenure, obviously you are not secure, and the tenure process is not an easy process. But once you get tenure, your job is more secure. I agree with Shannon that in terms of like how you work and the times that you work in industry, it's more like definite hours, like 8 to 5, or it could be more, but you don't have to necessarily answer emails at nights. I do that all the time. With like in industry, you just like get in academia, you get emails from students at any time. So you just have to answer it. Kind of more like being a PhD student, that you're always like on your work. This is true in academia. Financial aspect of it, I saw another question about it. That's also true. So it again depends on which university you are at, business school or engineering school, because the pays are very different. But yes, in certain companies, you get better financial packages with like maybe stocks or like the salary. But again, like look at the job security as well after tenure. That's also an important part of it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you touched a little on that question about the financial side. So someone asked about an academic job, Canada or the US?
I would say it depends on the universities, not the country. So which country you want to live in is a personal decision. But like in terms of the academic job, it depends on which universities you have offers from. I would say apply everywhere. And then once you have offers, you can decide based on the type of the university and then based on the location.
Okay. What job positions in industry mostly fit operations management and operations research?
A lot. And also different companies, they may have different like operation, like their definitions on the operation department, like the company innovation controls that I work for, supply chain was part of operation management. You can be supply chain manager, and you can deal with sometimes like some companies may consider like planner, buyer or planner under operations. Some of them may not. So it definitely depends. What I always suggest people to do is to search for like job descriptions. Don't do like the search and then has all of the job descriptions, but to go to like the real job postings like nowadays, because they change all the time, and search the keywords and see what you can get. Yeah.
Okay. Is remote work possible for someone who's just entering the workforce?
Yes, but I highly encourage people when they just entering the workforce. I highly encourage people to do the in-person ones, because it's something that you can practice, and also it's easier for you to learn. Like things like I just talk about, like you probably want to talk to people from different functions to understand your role better, things like that. It's harder to do it remotely. So I definitely encourage people to do the job in person, but also considering the pandemic, everything, it is, I will say it is definitely possible to work for remotely.
At this point, we are close to the end time, but if you both have a few extra minutes, we can keep going, and anyone who's available can stay on for a bit. Someone asked a follow-up question about the international student applications in academia. What will be the visa status if you get selected in academia? Will you continue to be H-1B visa and then follow like regular industry job visa status?
Yeah, I don't know the answer of this because I didn't go this path myself. So I don't know necessarily what would be your status. You should be able to find this with a Google search, I believe. But I know that universities do not have the limitations in terms of number of H-1B visas. Probably the status would be the same of like H-1B, and then you will switch to a green card. But then the details of it and the technical part of it, you may want to search on it. Yeah.
And I'll just add too that if you're a member of Informs, this might be a good question to put in the open forum in Informs Connect, because like I said before, you're not probably the only one who's faced this, and somebody may be able to help you there. So next, you talked about doing something meaningful in your work. Do you feel like going in industry gives you a better feeling of having a direct impact, or the freedom in research allows you to do something more specific, and if so, maybe more meaningful? Is it also realistic to consider working in NGOs after getting a PhD?
Yeah, I would say anything is possible. And this really depends. This is a great question. It really depends on your perspectives, your expectations. Some people like to see more of like the practical side of what they do and the immediate impact of it. So probably industry would be better for that. In academia, you do a great research, you publish it. You might not know that if anyone will use it in near future. One thing that I can say is that well, most of the breakthroughs that we see in science, they came from universities. Most of the inventions, even the ones that are being used in academia, in industry right now, they came from academia. But this mostly depends on your own perspectives. People enjoy like different sides of it, and again, obviously in academia is more of like the business side of it. In industry is more the business side of it. In academia is more the educational side of it.
Like for me, I think so it doesn't really matter if you're in industry or academia. You can always feel something meaningful for it. It's mainly the feeling for you. Like when I was the adjunct professor at University of Tulsa, I feel meaningful as well, because like I see all of my students learn new things, and then sometimes I learn new things from my students too. So I feel very meaningful on that. And then like I did some nonprofit organization projects, and that made me feel achievement as well. Feels like I've helped a bunch of people with the model that I built. Even in some other, like the industries, some projects I do feel, oh, I help the organization to reduce cost or to promote the profitability, things like that. So I think it's all depends on what you have the passionate for. Yeah.
Okay. For industry, is learning software like Power BI more important, or would you recommend languages like Python?
It's so for different job title and different companies, they may require different things. So for example, like if you're a business intelligence analyst, you probably would want to learn more of Power BI. If you want to do more of a data analyst, more towards like the model building, data analytics, probably like Python or R, or if you're more towards to like data engineer, you probably want to learn more about SQL and some like new software as well. I would encourage people to go to the job postings, Glassdoor, or maybe like LinkedIn. Even on Informs, we have our platform as well, right? And to go there and then see what type of job you want to do. See the job descriptions and see, okay, this is the type of job that I want to do. And then rate the job requirements, because different companies and different job titles requires different things. Yeah.
Okay. Pursuing an academic career, how do you find such jobs? How do you know which universities have an open position? And in your opinion, what's the most important quality you should have to get that job?
Yeah, as I mentioned, for ORMS, Informs Career Center is the best resource. So you can sign up, and if you're an Informs member, you will have access to the Career Center jobs. So you are going to get an email with all the job openings. You can also check the website. So just create a spreadsheet or something for yourself with all the openings. In terms of what quality, I would say research is the most important one. And again, it depends on the type of the university that you're going. Some universities, they pay attention a lot to your teaching statement, the type of courses that you can teach, and they might ask you to have a teaching presentation as well. But at the end, I would say research has more weight.
How much does receiving scholarships and awards, how helpful is that to getting a faculty position?
They're helpful. They're part of your resume, so you're definitely adding to your resume, especially awards which are more prestigious, such as Informs Awards. They're very, very helpful. But again, I would say it's a package. It's a package of everything that you have on your resume, plus your research and your teaching.
Okay, and along the same lines.
I want to add this, Tracy. It's also important that if you are a good fit or not, you might be a great candidate, but you might not be a good fit in that university that you're applying to. So don't get this, because like I'm on a search. I have been on the search committee for a couple of years. We are looking every year. We're looking for specific candidates in terms of the type of work that they do, their research, their type of courses that they can teach. So fit is also important.
I think that's true for all jobs, for sure. Is an internship in industry helpful to applying for academic jobs?
Again, it depends on the school. Some schools, especially some of the business schools, might want you to have some industry experience, and they might find it helpful. But again, it's a pass. Some schools, they might not pay attention to that at all, and research might be more important to them. So yeah, it depends.
Okay. Will trying to find projects, foundation grants, and scholarships really be a big part of a job in an academic career?
I would say in engineering and science, yes. So grants is a big part of the career, and they expect you to have some kind of like grants, either funding or like proposal for your tenure. For business schools, no, but yes, for engineering, yes.
Okay. Are there any research-only professorships with no teaching load?
No, I mean, I haven't heard of it. I don't think so. So it could be that your teaching load is minimal, such as teaching one course maybe every semester or even one course a year, depending on the school that you would go. But I've never heard of research-only professorship.
Okay. Is there a required number of publications to get a job in academia?
That also depends on the school. Some schools, they might have like a number, written number, or just they know that this number is there and you will hear it from them, from your mentors. Some schools might just pay attention to the quality of the work that you're doing, the quality of the journals that you publish on. It's great to have a mentor. So when you join, look for someone. They might offer it to you, or if they don't, like find like a senior faculty, someone who has been around, and get advice so that you know the culture of the university. You can even ask these kind of questions when you're going for interviews. In terms of the number of publications and the types of the journals that they expect you to publish in.
Okay, this one is for Shannon. Could you provide some advice to business school students who are interested in data analytics, data science, and data engineering, but don't know how to choose to start?
Okay, so the first thing is definitely what you're interested in, right? And like I said, searching for job postings and see the job description and job requirements definitely helps you understand it better. Especially nowadays, many companies, they have different definitions on data analytics, data science, or data engineering, even though it's supposed to be consistent, but apparently it's not in the industry. And that's one. And then two is depends on how much of a background of like your skill that you have. So some people may in the business school, but was in the engineering school, that may help a lot for some like coding skills. and or if you were like if you learned a lot of like mathematics related statistics, you may want to go more of the data science, things like that. And definitely, so what I would suggest you to do is to list what you are good at, what skills that you have, what other skills that you should expand to reach to the place, right? And even for business school students, many of them will choose the business analytics, that perspective, and that would give you more chance to deal with like more business related issue.
Okay. Is keeping in touch with both academy and industry realistic as both a professor and a consultant, or is it better to stick to one side?
So it depends on the university that you're at. Tenure requirements in some universities are very hard. So you really don't have any free time to do anything else. So being a consultant takes time. Some universities, it could be like more relaxed, so you will have time for it. After tenure, definitely it's going to get better. Not that you have more free time. It's just that you're kind of like, your job is a little bit secure, but don't think that after tenure you shouldn't publish, because you still have to go toward promotion and get professorship. And even after that, they every couple years you have to give a report of what you're doing. But definitely after tenure, it's a little bit more relaxed. But I would say it depends on where you are at, and you will know this culture when you want to join. You definitely know how much work they expect you to do. Again, in some universities, getting tenure is not easy at all.
Okay, someone asks, how realistic is it to do a postdoc and try to get a job at the same university you postdoced at?
Right, yeah, tenure track job.
Tenure.
Yes. So again, depends on the university. I know that some universities don't like to necessarily hire from their own students and their own postdocs. It's not that it's impossible. I saw that it happened. I got my PhD at University of Illinois, and I heard that this is kind of a culture, but I still know people who were students there or who were postdocs there, and they were able to get a job. But it's kind of like common that they say apply everywhere and don't stick to that university that you're at currently.
Okay. Any tips on salary negotiations in academia if you get multiple job offers from various universities? The dream scenario.
Right. It's much harder. Salary negotiations in academia is much harder than industry, because there are kind of like protocols based on like from like higher levels at the provost level, or like even chancellor level. So there's only so much that they can do. Don't expect to get like a huge increase or negotiate a lot. You can always negotiate, and really the time to negotiate is at the beginning when you want to accept the offer. So usually deans or department chairs might reach out to you about your offer. So that's the time that you can negotiate, but it's much harder in academia than industry.
Shannon, do you have any great tips about industry salary negotiations?
For me, I didn't have much experience on that, but I've heard a lot of stories from my like coworkers or like friends. I think first of all, if you know what your I call it market value, like you know where your market value is. And if there is a big gap on from your market value and your expectation salary, definitely you should try to figure out if what you can improve yourself, or if you're like under paid or something like that. So I would say if you get multiple job offers, for me, I didn't realize that until I got the new job. don't only concentrate on the salaries. Like you could also talk about like other benefit packages as well, like health insurance. Probably think it's health insurance. It's probably all the same. It's very different. Depends on that, and it's like you can, if you have some like medical issues that you need, it is a lot of money, and that also something else like the short-term disability, long-term disability, things like that. Some very little like bonus that is very important as well for industry. And is it incentive? Is that non-incentive based? And how you can negotiate? Always remember that you can negotiate with the benefits as well. Like if you're not sure if you can successfully deal with the salary part, you can start with the benefits. Yeah.
Okay, great advice. I think we have reached the end of the questions. So thank you both so much to our speakers for joining us today and for answering so many great questions. Thank you to all you attendees. This was really fun. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tracy and Jill, for organizing. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.